Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant, and this is a look at the new Compromised Nav Beacons within Elite Dangerous patch 1.4. Now these are a lot like the hazardous resource extraction sites in that as I jump in here you'll see a message up on the top right, system link error, system security response unavailable, and that means there's no police force here, no security force of any type. So it's a completely open combat ground essentially, not like a conflict zone in that there's not two sides here. You've got an area full of people jumping into this system, NPCs jumping in here, trying to get to wherever they're trying to go to, along with a load of pirates. The pirates here are from multiple factions, and they will indeed fight with each other. There's all ranges of ships here, right from Sidewinders all the way up to Anacondas, and just about everything in between. You can see a lot of contacts on the radar there, and most of these, at least 50% of them, perhaps a little bit more, are wanted, so we can attack nearly all of them. You do have to pick your targets a little bit carefully if you're not in a well-equipped ship. Some of these will be in wings of 3 or 4 or more, and quite often when you attack a target you won't get any help. Sometimes you can jump in to a fight that's already occurring between two different pirate NPC factions, but on the other hand, a lot of fights do occur with just you one-on-one or one-on-3 versus your target with no extra assists. Obviously there's no place here to give you kill assists. The ranks of the enemies generally here are on the higher end. I don't think I've seen anything lower than dangerous here. There's a lot of dangerouses, there's a lot of deadlies, and there's a fair amount of elite here. Now even the smaller ships here, if they've got an elite ranking, they can be a fair challenge. There's certainly some AI updates having gone in on this update, and the specs of the ships also seem to be significantly different. Those ships with an elite ranking, for example, have very, very tough shields, and it'll take quite a while just to chip their shields down to 0. And beyond that, even their tactics seem to have been beefed up quite a bit. Now, looking at this Anaconda model, I'm not quite sure what's going on with it. I think there's a new damage model being put in, but it seems it may not be quite working as intended. Of course, there's damaged parts of the ship, there's gaping holes there, but there's structural elements that seem to be floating alongside the ship as though they are physically attached, but there's no object there actually holding those components in place. But in any event, I'm sure that will get fixed. But as I was saying, the AI seems to have taken quite an improvement on this particular update, and that's true both for the compromised nav beacons here as well as the hazardous extraction sites. It's also true for any of the other combat areas in the game. There seems to be a much wider range of skill for the NPCs between the lower ranks and the higher ranks now, which is a good improvement, I must say. So as you can see, I'm flying in a Vulture here. This is pretty much an A-spec Vulture now, so that gives you an idea of the damage output and the defences the ship should have. And whilst my combat skills are not the best, I can certainly hold my own in these sort of areas. Now, in the previous high intensity extraction sites, along with the regular nav beacons, if I used to attack a dropship like this, it really wasn't much of a challenge at all. They were quite easy to kill. And whilst that still can be true in areas like this, when they turn their guns on you, they can drain your shields pretty fast. And they do try their best to keep outside of your line of fire. In this particular case, he's being attacked by other wanted NPCs, and I took the opportunity to wait for my shields to recharge before I started firing on him, at least to get myself 2 full rings. As you can also see here, the NPCs make extensive use of chaff. They use this quite a lot, and although I tend to switch off the targeting here so I can essentially use my weapons as fixed weapons, which means I can still continue in targeting them, it does make for a more varied and interesting tactic compared to what they previously used. So finding a fight in the game is now a lot easier. Finding a compromised nav beacon itself proved more difficult than I would have liked. In the end, I had to resort to asking around on the forums to find one, as I couldn't find one myself. They don't seem to be quite as common as the hazard resource extraction sites, which themselves are a lot easier to find. Now, the assault ships and the gunships, these provide very interesting opponents. They have a lot more weaponry, especially the gunship. They're quite tough NPC opponents, at least for players with my level of combat skill at any rate. So it's nice to finally have areas where we can fight that have a mixed bag of opponents. Now, I have seen a few people commenting on the fact that they're not too impressed with these areas overall, mainly because they feel that it encourages farming and that in many ways it's like shooting fish in a barrel. My personal opinion on that is that the more varied areas we have, the more options we have within the game, the better. I certainly can't see how adding areas like this has any detrimental effect or negative effect on the game. If you're not that keen on it, then simply don't come here. I'm not that keen on power play personally, you probably know that, and I've made no secret of it, but I don't mind it being in the game. I just tend to keep away from it, and I know there's a lot of people out there that really do enjoy power play, and that pretty much is what Elite is for them. The same seems to be holding true for CQC. It's another area of the game, another aspect of the game that a lot of people enjoy, and I suspect it's an area of the game that a lot of people are going to avoid, but nonetheless it keeps the game varied, and that's how I feel about these areas. In some ways they're a little bit like combat zones, but you've got the option of not having to choose a side, and the intensity is completely different. If you don't engage in, if I destroy this target here and then no longer engage in any more combat, I won't constantly keep getting attacked. Generally speaking, I only have to worry about my target and whether or not he is in a wing. And outside of that, I should get left alone by the other NPCs, unless of course I have a wanted tag, or if I want to mix things up a little bit and start coming here carrying some gold or something like that, then of course I'm going to get attacked by pretty much anyone and everyone. So if you've been looking for the option within Elite for an area where you can come to, where you can keep engaging in combat without the worry of being constantly attacked by the opposing faction like you are in conflict zones, and you want the challenge of fighting NPCs with the higher tiered ranks as well as some decent AI, then these are certainly going to be the places you want to come to. It's a close call between which is actually better for that style of combat, these areas or the hazardous extraction sites, but if I had to choose an area in which I wanted continuous combat, it would probably be these Compromised Nav Beacons. Now with this vulture here, I'd only equipped it with a single shield cell bank module, giving me 3 uses of it. At this point I'd been here around about quarter of an hour, and my cells were already out and my shield was down. Now the hull of course of the vulture is paper thin, and I really wanted to try and finish the anaconda off before I had to run, so I was going to turn back here, but at the last minute it does explode. My worry here was whether or not I was actually going to get away, and fortunately I wasn't being attacked any longer, so I tried to boost away and get myself into Super Cruise, but I didn't pay attention to that ship coming down from the top there, and well, it was a bit of a close call, wasn't it? And in my panic I kept spamming the boost button and not paying attention to the fact that I hadn't put any pips into the engine, but nonetheless I did get safely away. So for me these areas are a lot of fun. I don't really have the ship or the ability to stay in these areas for prolonged periods of time. I can usually manage about 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes at a stretch before I have to go, but in this case it was around about quarter of an hour and I made myself 1,000,000 credits, so I don't think that's too bad. With a bigger ship and more skill, you'll be able to make a lot more money here even faster, so if that's what you've been looking for, then you're going to be very, very happy with this new update. This system proved to be one of the better ones if you're looking for that sort of combat, because it had both a compromised nav beacon as well as a hazardous extraction site. Now when the game actually goes live after beta, it's quite possible the locations of these things will actually shift about a bit again. As for the length of beta itself, Frontier normally do that for about 1 week, but from this point on, including this patch, they've decided to extend that to a 2-week period, so we won't be getting the live version of the CQC update next week. We'll have to wait till the following week for that, but that does allow us to give more testing to the update, and it should enable us to have a much better experience once the game does go live. There should be less problems, hopefully. Anyway, that's a look at the Compromised Nav Beacons. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.